everybody see here in my exercise folder, color key graphic elements. I can't remember if I sent them to you in a folder, but you should have. There's actually 3 images. We don't really need 2 of them. We need this one, bird flying, and landscape. There's an old TV. You can bring that in too if you want, but we're mainly gonna work with these 2 still images. They're both JPEGs. All right. So let's go ahead and launch Premiere. Jump right in. All right, and let's just go back to the screen. We'll create an exercise project. And I think I also have a tutorial of this on Blackboard, but I like to do some of these in class because I don't know if everybody takes a look at them, and hopefully this could trigger some ideas, give you some ideas of using different type of images. So on Tuesday, we just worked with like still images, like full frame, photographs. This is going to be, I think one might be a photograph or some kind of illustration. And then the other one is essentially, I would categorize it as clip art. It's got an image and then it's got a white background. We're going to remove the white background and be able to superimpose that over a background, etc. Okay, so let's do new project, right? Exercise, June 12th. And save it in the exercise folder, D, there it is, TVR 140 summer exercises for me. That's my spot. I hit create. We'll get into the workspace, right? And again, we want to have the project panel, exercise, the effects panel, source panel. Hang on a second. I kind of skipped one there. Yeah, very important. We also want the effects control panel, right? Program, timeline, the tool palette is always good, and the master meters. We're going to incorporate music in the second exercise. Hopefully we can get to it. All right, so let's go project and import those images. However you want to do that. And let me go back here. And we'll just bring those in. We don't, you don't have to bring the other one. So I'm just going to bring in the bird flying and the landscape shot. Hit open. Two still images. And let's go ahead and create a sequence before we drag those in. So we can create our sequence and then we can drag those in and make them fit accordingly. Right? So we'll do right click, new item, sequence, right? And we'll do the usual 10 HD 1080p, the second folder, and that preset in the middle. We'll click OK. Creates a sequence. Let me give a little bit more room here. Okay. Push that back up. And let's just call it, I'm just going to name it exercise June 12th. June 12th. All right, so there's our sequence. I'm going to expand this a little bit bigger. Okay. All right, and so we are not going to use audio on this, so I'm going to actually reposition our tracks. I'm going to push them down. We're actually going to need about 1, 2, 3. We're going to need at least 4 layers. So I'm going to grab these little rings, make them a little skinnier, right? And I'm going to come here and add, click in this header area and right click and do add tracks. Okay. Sorry, my dogs are barking. Hang on. Okay, and let me hang on. I'm just trying to count. We're going to have a background, bird, and 3 more. So actually, yeah, we're going to need, we're going to need 2 video tracks. So type in 2, click OK. And the 5th one is kind of hidden, so we can push this up a little bit if we have to, and reposition the video and audio tracks. There you go. So you got 5 layers. Okay. And let's open up the landscape image, which is just this pretty sort of like beach, mountains, very nice. You can see there's a strong beach theme here. Let's just grab that, bring it down to the video 1. Let's magnify that, right? Hitting your plus key. And let's extend this all the way to about 10 seconds. And again, this is sequential media. I'm not sequential media. It's a synthetic media. So we can just extend it as long as we want, right? Let's make it about 10 seconds, right? So you've got about 10 seconds of that. And then the other image is the bird flying. And it's a bird with a white background, right? So let's go ahead and bring this in and drop it on 2. Actually, let's go ahead and just leave it there. That's fine. Okay. Right. And so now, obviously, the bird is pretty big, but you've got that white, which is covering up the background. And so we're going to clear up that white. Obviously, if you're incorporating Photoshop, you know how to do this. It's pretty simple, but I wanted to let everybody know that you also have that capability here in Premiere. All right, so that's one of the reasons Premiere is so really it's very comprehensive. It gives you like a lot of tools where you can do a lot of things. And some people might have to think they have to go to another program, but it gives you that functionality. So we're going to go into video effects, expand that folder, and we're going to go down to keying, okay, and expand that. Now there's a bunch of them in there. So keying is like, as I mentioned, we can also do a track mat. Maybe we'll get to that tonight. We could play around with that on, that's a fun way to do titles too. Maybe we can do that Tuesday. Anyway, so we have that selected, bird flying, right? Open the controls, effect controls. We're gonna do motion in a minute, but we're not gonna worry about it. So I'm gonna collapse that motion sort of those properties, right? And I've got my bird selected, and I'm gonna drag the color key onto it. And I'm gonna reposition my playhead at the very beginning. Right, so we've got the color key. So let's reposition the playhead, and here's your color key, and here's your 4 basic properties. So let's turn them all on, right? And the first one is the key color, right? And the graphic folks know about the eyedropper. So you click this, and you basically hover over the color that you want to select. And in this case, you're going to select it, and then you're going to get rid of it, right? So you click on the white, and so that's what it's looking for. And then when you adjust this color tolerance, that's what it's looking for. It's looking to cut out the white. Now, this is very powerful. You can see I just literally dragged it. It went to 3, and it pretty much just cut that out. This has gotten better over the years. It's just gotten a little bit more refined, right? So if you try to go beyond this, you can see that pretty much you cut it out, but you can see that white around the bird, right? Here, let me try to make that a little bigger, right? So you can see that program panel, okay? So let me click. I can't remember if we can do fractional values. Okay, it won't. So let's try 4. You can see it gets a little thinner. Let's try like 7. Okay, you can see it's getting thinner. So what our goal is, and depending on your system, on your graphics card. This may, you know, work a little different. Your values might be a little different than mine. Okay, actually, I'm just going to drag this, and you can see I'm getting up to about 9, 11. So here's where you have to be careful. If you go too far, what happens is it's looking for pure white. But if you go too far with this, you might start cutting out other areas of this bird that close to white. So for example, maybe like the end of the tip tail, maybe here, or maybe even the eye. If you go too far, watch. Actually, wow, I went to 115. That actually looks pretty clean. Okay, okay, so you can see, so I actually went to about 115, and that's pretty clean, right? But now if I go too far, watch this little area and try it on yourself. If you go too far, it starts cutting into that little area of the bird, because that would be the next, it's not pure white, but it's that tolerance. It's that next hue or color. So don't go too far. So I'm going to back this off, and the tail looks good. You haven't cut anything off. You haven't because if you go like really too far, see, you start like eating up the image. So I'm going to go with about 115, 115. That looks pretty good. Gives me a pretty clean edge. Again, your value might be a little different. And then you have additional refinements, all right? Thin, which is very powerful. I'm trying to see, can I do fractional? No, it won't let me. So if you could do, for example, probably won't need to go more than, you can see at 0, you can see a little bit of an edge, but if you type in 1, it makes it even smoother. So it really gets that edge. And so this is the idea of blending it with the background. It's kind of like blending options. If you go to 2, it might be too much. I can't tell, but I think we might be cutting off some of the edges of the feather. So I'm going to just leave it at 1. And then the additional blending option is edge feathering. And if you've worked at Photoshop, you know about feathering. You can like smooth the edges of an image and have it blend in with the background. So here, again, you don't want to go too far, because if you go too far, let me see something. Sometimes, well, you can see I went too far, and then it kind of like edges, it kind of like pulls out the edge, and you get this little glow. Sometimes that's a stylistic choice, but we're trying to make this blend in. So I'm going to go back down here somewhere around maybe like 5. Actually, no, I'm even seeing the edge. Yeah, I'm going to do maybe like 2 or 3. And it looks like that this is giving us fractional numbers. So I can do like 2.5, you know. Actually, I'm going to go to like 1.5 because it was pretty, yeah, that's fine. So again, so that's your basic color key. And again, you could do this with other colors. If the background was a solid green or blue, then you could use that and you could get rid of the blue. Sometimes if you have a colored background that has some different shades, you can actually add multiple color keys, and each one you can take out that specific shade. Okay? All right, do a quick save. So you got the bird clean. Is this making sense, folks? So obviously, those of you who are familiar with Photoshop can use this. You can use Photoshop on Project 3, but those of you who are not familiar with Photoshop, this gives you that Photoshop type functionality. If you want to incorporate some of these layers, some of these images, but you want to just get rid of the background, okay? Also, let me see, sometimes you also have to watch going too far. I think it's on is it on the color tolerance? Hang on. No, not color. Edge thin. If I go edge thin, no. So you can see how I went too far on edge thin, and you can like see the edges of the feathers just kind of getting chewed up. So let me put it back to 1. Okay. All right. All right. So that's a nice clean cutout. And so now here's what we're going to do. We'll collapse the color key and we'll open up motion because now we're going to have this bird fly across this background. So we'll create a little pattern and then we're going to duplicate it and give it some little chicks, little birds, right? So maybe mama bird, daddy bird, you know, and baby birds. Okay. So we're going to adjust the position, scale, rotation, right? And we have, yeah, we should still have 3 more layers, right? So let me push this up a little bit so we can see that 5th layer. All right, so let's go ahead, scale this down. Let's try, and we're not gonna keyframe the scale. We're gonna just set it once. Let's try 45. That may be a little small. Let's go with like 55. There you go. So it still looks like kind of the bigger bird, right? Let's do 60. Okay, there you go. Let's do 60. So there's the bird, and then let's extend it so it covers the same amount of time, right, as the background. And then let's go ahead and position it. Let's have it start off screen. And you don't have to do it exactly like I do it. Just have it come in and let's have it sort of like dip up and down and then fly off. Okay, so I've got my first keyframe on position, right? I'm gonna turn on my direct manipulation tool, which takes forever. And you can see the wireframe around it, right? You can see the anchor point is in the center. So this is a nice way to just sort of position it where you want to start, right? Your playhead is on the first keyframe. Let's push it off. I'm going to have it start kind of like low, right? And you can see it off screen, right? And the nice thing is when you have that turned on, that transform tool, and you see the wireframe, you can see exactly where it's at, right? So that's your first position. So I'm going to go maybe a couple seconds in, and I'm not going to add a keyframe. I'm just going to position it where I want it to go. So I'm going to grab it and have it kind of come up, right? Right. We're going to just keep the scale where it's at. And then I'm going to go forward a little bit. And then I'm going to grab it. And as when I let go of this, it will create a keyframe at that specific point where the playhead is. And then I'm going to add 2 more points. So 1 more, and then, right, this is later in time. And then I'm going to position it. And then when I let go, it will apply that position at that point in time. Right. So here it goes. Right. And I'm trying to keep it within those safety guides. Right. And then last keyframe. Right. And now I'm going to just pull it and have it just kind of fly off, push it over, keep pushing it, make sure you get it all off screen. Boom. Right. So now you see the motion path while you still keep that on. And if you drag your playhead, you can see it coming through. Right. And now you can preview it. It gets rid of the wireframe. You can see it sort of floating, flying, and then going boom, 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 right? Flies off screen. And if you wanted to, you could also do some of these interpolation options, ease out. You can always do like a little ease out, see what that does. Again, you can experiment with this. Okay, I'm gonna do an ease out. So every time it sort of flies off that one position, maybe it'll just be a little smoother. Sometimes you don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but that's why you experiment with it. Okay. Okay. So it looks like it's kind of it might be it looks like it's kind of hesitating, but we'll see how that works when it renders. In fact, I'm just going to go render it right now because if that is going to look like that when I render it, then I'll probably take that off. right? Because ease out did make it smoother, so it might just have to be rendered. So you can see I'm doing just a quick render on that layer to decide if I'm going to keep it. All right, so find your path, and we can also add a little rotation if you want. We'll try that in a minute. Hang on a minute. I just want to check. Yeah, I don't think that doesn't look smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and undo. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go back to just, let's see, ease out. No, I'm going to go back to linear. That should allow me to go. Yep. So I'm just going to reset that to linear because that actually looked smoother, unless my computer is just hiccuping. Here we go. So unrendered now. Let me just play it. Yeah, that definitely looks better. It's not like hesitating. It was kind of like stopping. All right. So now, if you want, play with the rotation, right? So let's say as it gets up here, right? And then when it comes here, you can add a keyframe, right? Actually, my bad. Let's go back to this second keyframe, right? So using that position, and you're going to add a keyframe here, and then you're going to go to the next keyframe, add that keyframe, and you're going to angle it. So it should kind of dip down. So if you wanted to give that a little bit more of that kind of, and then you're going to have to fix it again, right? So maybe do like 25 degrees. So it's kind of like diving a little bit. So you can adjust that motion. You can adjust that pattern. So it's kind of like dipping down. And then of course, now if you don't change that keyframe on rotation after it, it's going to keep that value. So I'm going to use that position, add another keyframe and make that like 0, right? Right. So it will sort of straighten out, right? And then it will fly off. So additional nuances that you can add. Okay. How's that working for everybody? Really, this is just kind of review of motion effects, but it's the new thing is the color key. All right. Now we're going to create 3 little birds. And so the nice thing about this is we don't have to recreate that bird, scale it down and do the path. We're going to copy and paste this layer and we're going to do one copy. We're going to reduce it in size and then we're going to duplicate that 2 more times and then we're going to stagger it so they will all fly across the screen. Okay, again, so it's technique, it's workflow, right? A way to do this without having to rebuild everything from scratch, right? Okay, right? All right, so there's our mama bird right here. I'm gonna just get rid of this because sometimes that confuses me. I'm gonna right click on the, actually no, just go ahead and click on the bird, do a Control C or a Command C, click over here, deselect that and paste it, right? Go back and you can see it made it a copy. And then we're going to stagger it, right? So timing wise, right? The mama bird will come in first and then the next one will come in, but it's a little bit close, but we can adjust that, right? But now we're going to click on that second layer, I'm sorry, which is technically on video 3, right? That's the duplicate. And say we want to keep the same position, the same pattern. You could adjust that, but we want it to follow it, right? So let's just go back to scale and just adjust that. Let's do like 30. See how that looks, right? So there goes mama, and oh, here comes the little bird. Yeah, yeah, here's the gang, right? Right? So he comes in and they fly off. And then we have to, because that bird is still flying off, then we'll extend the background. In fact, we'll probably have to go to about like 16 seconds. Okay? So if you want that bird to be closer, just slide it earlier. Right? Here comes mama bird. Here comes baby bird following. And technically right now, the bird is in the foreground, you see? So let's say you don't want that. So you can grab the mama bird, daddy bird, push that all the way up to 5, right? And so now that baby bird is behind it, right? And so I'm going to take this bird, which is the first small bird, I'm going to drop it down. And then let's duplicate this, right? So we'll go copy. You can also do it this way. Click over here, paste, and that's another small bird. And then that will start later, right behind the second one, right? And there's the second one. They get a little clustered there, so I'm going to like spread them out a little bit, right? So you can play with that however you like. There she goes. There they goes, right? And then you've already copied the small one. You've made that one copy, and then it remembers that. So just go ahead, a Control V.
Determination. HP pull restored. Oh, okay.
Hello, somebody's got their mic on.
I,
Somebody's.
yeah.
Hang on. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so share, sorry. Okay, so Mama Bird is out of frame there. She's done, right? And so now you finish off with the third final birds. This one maybe can come a little sooner, right? And they fly off and they follow Mama, Daddy Bird, right? So here you're using layers, which is something I would like to see at some level, right? You want to use, this is an example of also using your tools. So we've got a video effect, motion effect. And if you wanted to create a little motion in the back, go ahead, take your landscape, right? And maybe just do like a little scale adjustment on there, right? Give it a little movement, right? Just do like, 130, just a small little move. So it gives you movement, right? There's a little push on the background. Maybe that's like really slow. Let's jack that up a little bit. Let's go to like 150 on the background. All right, there you go. So you've got, you want to use your tools. The idea here is to use those resources, those tools, those effects, right? So you could speed that up if you want. And here's another idea. I'm going to just sort of compress these tracks a little bit the other way. There you go. So I can see everybody. I'm going to increase the background layer. Okay. And also, right, foreground, background, which you've learned in project 2, right? So you got the very background. Your mama bird is in the foreground, and these other birds are behind her, right? And so remember we did, what do we call that? The lens flare. So, hey, you want to give a little bit more flair to this thing, kind of unintended pun, right? I just applied that on the background layer, right? And so, yeah, let's do a little lens flare, right? So as these guys fly off, we can do a little lens flare, like create like a little sun action, right? Right? So maybe just pull it off to the left, first position, drop it down, right? And then as they fly off, we'll just keep it simple, right? Boom, boom. That first one is at 0. Let's bring this, what's this gonna look like? No, make it brighter. Oh, we need to move it. Yes, they can position. I gotta put it up in the center. We're gonna put it up in the center of the sky, X and Y, the other way. Okay, so maybe you want that to get a little brighter. And then, of course, as they fly off and the background is pushing, right, you create that new position and you push it off, maybe drop off, push it off screen. And as it drops off, you drop it down. So again, now you've got 5 layers, you've got 2 video effects, and you've got motion, right? So this is going to have to be definitely rendered. You can see it's red now, right? All right, so let's go ahead and render that and see what that looks like. So when you look at the project 3 goals, when it says, use of layers, combining effects, transitions, etc., whatever, this is another example, right? The other day we did video effects with some transitions and motion effects. We're not really doing any transitions here. We're just kind of like telling the story, and then who knows what happens after this. All right, so you can see it takes a little bit longer here now. And I think when we added the lens flare on that landscape image, that definitely is slowing it down. Okay, so that will be done in a minute. Let me stop sharing here for a minute. Any questions on that? Is anybody even, I don't know if you've even started looking for images. Is anybody looking to work with any clip art or anything like that where you might incorporate something like this? And if you haven't, maybe you haven't thought about it, but now you're like, okay, well, I can actually do that in Premiere. So that can open up some possibilities. All right, let's go back and let's look at this rendered. Hopefully it's playing nice and smooth. Okay, here we go. Almost there. Yeah, wow. Okay.
Professor, when is the project due again?
Project 3,
Yeah,
that will be a week from today.
okay.
Yeah, so you have 1 week.
That's not a lot of time, but
It's
I'm
not a lot
halfway
of
done.
time, but I'm gonna give you, everybody, remember, you have a range. It's anywhere from 2.5 minutes to 3.5 minutes. So I shouldn't be saying this, but I give people, when you're in this, when I have the 6 week class. So get to like 2:15, 2:20 and create 10 or 15 seconds of credits. And the credits in clown. So you don't have to push 3. If you have enough material, if you feel like, hey, I need 3 minutes to tell my story, 3.5, that's fine. But nothing wrong with turning in something that's 2.5 minutes. And that extra minute is a lot of work, right? So between 2:30 and 3.5 minutes, that's a whole lot of work. So consider that. And I'm going to show you some basic music stuff on Tuesday, even though your song might be like 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes, you can always just fade out and end it. You can also try to do an edit. I'm going to give you, I'm going to do a basic edit on Monday, and you will also work with me, everybody. So you can shorten songs depending on the song. Some of them are very easy to edit. Some of them are not as easy because if it's like if it's a very popular song, it's a very repetitive song, then it's easier to pull a chunk out and glue it back together. Way back in the day when pretty much more people listen to radio, that was known as a radio edit. So I'm going to show you how to do that on Tuesday, among other things. So yes, next Thursday, tip, hey, if that's not a lot of time, hey, make it 2:15, 2:20, tack on 15, 10 seconds of credits, and I'm going to show you how to do a rolling title, which is pretty simple. Okay, so now we are rendered, right? So here we go. Yeah, this is just my playback a little bit. But if I were to export this, it would probably play pretty smooth. Hang on, I need to take off my VPN because I think that might be you're protected. Hang on a second. Is this on? It's off. Okay, good. Okay. Anyway, so let me try that again. Yeah, it's stuttering a little bit, but I think it's just, you see, it takes a second to kind of like, then it plays very smooth. Yeah, if I were to export this, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and export it real quick. I just want to see this. Let me just do birds. This should be a pretty quick export. I think my computer is just, yeah, it's got birds. Hang on. Birds, color key. Okay, and I'll keep the YouTube sequence, YouTube setting. Hang on a second. Actually, I'm just going to stick it in here. Export. Okay, save. Let me go with the YouTube. There it is. Okay, export. So it's going to take that long, huh? It's going to be pretty quick. There, here we go. Anyway, so I'm always curious to see how it exports. And also, when you submit your piece, take a look at it before you submit it. Watch your export. Make sure it's playing smoothly. Okay. Okay, I'm going to let that export. Did everybody else bring in the other clips, that Watanabe folder? Did anybody not bring that in? Because we're going to move into that next. Because the last couple days we've done kind of like these exercises, right? This is also an exercise, but it's kind of like visualizing how to work with music. So I find this very useful for students. So you can start thinking like, okay, I lay my music and then what happens? You know, how do you're using your music, it's your tempo, right? So now what you did on project 2 was obviously pacing, timing. You were thinking about, you had 30 seconds. Now you've got a little bit more time to figure this out, but now you actually have a music track. Okay. So make sure you have that while I finish exporting this. Let's see if it's exported. 30 seconds. Okay. So make sure you have that. I'm going to step away for 1 second, come back and make sure this is exported okay. Oh, look at that. It's done. Okay, good. So I'm gonna jump into my folder. I want to take a look at this. Okay, where was it? Exercise. There it is, birds export. Gonna open up in Windows Media. Let's see how it plays. Okay, that first move is a little bit hesitant, but that's fine. So you can see it's pretty clean, right? So you've got the background, right? So you've got five layers, right? With all the birds. You got movement on the back, lens flare, etc., and motion effects. And yeah, they look pretty clean, right? So you didn't have to rebuild those three birds, right? So copy and paste. And we're going to work with copy and paste attributes here in a minute. Okay. All right. So let's get out of that. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and import that other folder and we'll move on that. Let's see, 709. Yeah, we should be able to have time to do that. And then we will watch whatever project twos we have at this point. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go back into Premiere. Okay. All right. Let's go to project panel. I'm going to go ahead and just create a folder here to put this stuff in so it doesn't get mixed up with everything else. I'm going to rename that bin color key exercise. Right, so it's got the sequence, it's got everything in there nice and clean. And then let's import that Watanabe folder, which should say P3 Watanabe exercise upload, and it has some subfolders. So if you downloaded it, you probably have to unzip it and then import it. Okay, so hopefully we've done that, but I'll give everybody a second. Right, and then we're going to open this up, and it's got 4 subfolders. And this might be a good example if you're, when you gather all your images, depending on what you're doing, what your theme, your topic, if there's way to categorize what you're trying to do. Like, for example, the idea here is civilization, nature. This is how I'm approaching this song. So I have images of like people, traffic, stress, crowds. Then I've got my nature stills, right? And then I've got, like just pretty scenarios. And then I've got like pollution, this kind of stuff, and then I've got my music. So this is an example of like really clean organization, right? The more organized top and bottom, the better you will be an editor, right? Because you don't have to like waste a lot of energy finding your stuff or knowing where the heck you put stuff. Okay. And so I created these folders, right, in just Windows or in the Mac, and then just bring them in, and they'll stack up just like you brought them in. All right. So I'm going to close out this exercise down here, right? Get rid of that sequence, and we're going to create a new sequence. Again, same format, right? New item, sequence, and we'll go with that 1080 HD. Boom. And the reason I'm using that is because our nature stills are they're all 1080. These other images are different resolutions. Okay. All right, so let's open up our music, and let's just go ahead and double click it. And we had some basic experience with project 1 where we had the music, and you can see it, obviously. This is a huge advantage with computer editing being way back in the day when we didn't have computers, we couldn't see music or sound the way we can see it now. We had meters, right? We had these little VU meters, and they're still out there. But now you can actually see what is happening. You can see right here, it starts quiet, it gets louder, and then right here, there's like some sort of loud punctuation, and then it kind of gets louder, right? So we'll play that in a minute. Hang on. So this is an instrumental piece. Well, let me just play a little bit. So it starts very ethereal. Right, and then it just builds quietly. And then, sort of builds, right? Right, so it's going to keep building, building, building. All right, so you can see right there, and remember, you've got your little slider bars, so wherever if you want to like look at that area in more detail, you can position your playhead. This is also a little bit of a basic audio lesson, and you can drag these rings and you could magnify. And you can see right there where that, sort of big crash comes in with the drums and etc. And then it builds a little bit more. I don't know if we're even going to get this far, right? Anyway, so let's go ahead and lay that in, okay? And you grab it right here, just like we did on project 1, and drag it down to audio 1. And we're gonna cover all through minutes, so we're gonna do about a minute and maybe 20 seconds of this, okay? Right? So I'm just gonna push this down. We're not gonna do much editing to the audio. We're gonna just leave it at. And this is not something I edited, so this is off of a CD, so it meets industry standard, and you can see the level. See, it's around 6. If you were to like raise this up, right? This is the volume. This is technically the audio level. It's not the volume, it's the actual gain. But if you push that up, and then that's distortion, right? That's too much. So I brought it up like 5 dB. Okay. So if you have something that's been recorded, it's more than likely at the right level. Now, if I want to set this back, I can adjust this manually, but it might be hard to get it back to 0. 0 is the default, but I can always go here, right? And volume level, and I can just click this and hit 0. It does carry 1 keyframe, but then it just references it at 0, right? So that's a very quick audio lesson. We'll cover more of that on Tuesday. All right. So now we're going to do a couple of techniques. So first off, this first part, which is like very languid, very slow, and sort of ethereal, we're going to just do the images, right? So for example, we've got these mountainscapes, rivers, very pretty trees, beaches, etc., etc. Okay. So we're gonna use those landscapes through this part, and then right when that music crashes, right, we'll make an abrupt thing. So when you think of this music, so what makes you think pacing wise, right? Is this fast? Is this like boom, boom, boom? Is it like slow, gradual, right? So again, I'm hopefully I'm not overstating here, but you know, I'm interpreting the music. So I'm going to use my um, I'm going to use my landscape shots, and we did a very quick look at preferences. So for example, I know that if I grab one of these images, right? Yeah, when I pull it up here, it always measures it out for 5 seconds, right? And that means if I grab it from here, I don't even have to open it here. If I drop it down here, it's 5 seconds long, right? Right? Goes to 5 seconds. And the reason of that is because if I go into edit and preferences, let me see if I remember where this is. General, because you can graphics, maybe? Is it graphics? Let me see. Left to right, major joint. No. Let me go general. There's a setting here where you can set, okay, maybe it's media. I don't see it. There used to be a setting where you could, when you import a still image, you could create it, you could select a default duration, which traditionally has been 5 seconds, but I don't see it here. Auto save, we did look at that. Color control, I thought it was in graphics. No. Labels, media, includes captions, files, growing files. No. Okay, well, maybe they got rid of it. Media cache, we can talk about this another time. Playback, wait, memory. Okay, playback, pre-roll, so 5 seconds, 5 frames, timeline. Oh, okay, maybe, here it is. So you can see timeline. And for example, you can change the default of those video transitions, audio transitions, and there it is, still image default duration. So if you wanted that to be 10 seconds for whatever reason, you can change that. All right, so I'm going to leave it at 5 because it actually generally works fine. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and lay these shots all the way through just before this thing blows up, right? So there's 5 seconds. I have about a minute, right? Which I think if I'm doing the right math, 5 times 12 is 60, correct? So this is kind of like a mathematical calculation, right? Let me use my, I think that's right, right? 5 times 12. Okay, so I can actually get away with about 13 clips because this little crash is about 106. All right, so I can get away with about 13 clips. All right, so here's what I can do. I can grab each one knowing what they look like. I can drag them in and just, you know, butt them up however order I want, or I can also do this. I'm going to undo that, right? I can actually select them in the order that I want. Like, for example, like, let's say I really know my images, okay? I'm going to pretend I know all my images. I want to start with a green valley, and I'm going to go to these pine trees. So I'm going to select them out of order the way they're stacked. And then I can just drop them in. All right, so I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to hit Control, right? Because if I hit Shift, right, it selects everything. Let me release that, right? So I click my green valley. I'm going to hit Control. I'm going to go down to pine trees. I'm going to go to the mountain stream, and I'm going to go down here to sunrise, Mirror Lake, beach, river. I'm losing count of how many I've grabbed. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't think I even have enough. I'll just keep grabbing them. Okay, so I grabbed them in a certain order, and I'm going to bring them in. Right? You see how I just grabbed that whole selection and dropped it in. Okay. And so that was the order that I selected them, right? Green Valley, pine trees. I went to mountain streams here and then the beach, right? That's not the order that they're stacked up here, right? Green Valley, greenscape, etc. Did I forget anything? I thought I had enough here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I feel like I forgot one. Because I need about 2 more. Let me just go ahead. Sunshine, ocean. I don't think I should. I think no, that one's there. So if you want to try that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do it again. Or if you've already, or for example, if you have already looked at these and you know what exact order you want them, you could also just do this. You could change the name here. You could add a number, right? 1, 2, add this to 2, and that's not gonna affect your link. It's not gonna affect your source clip in your hard drive. It's only going to affect what happens in your whatever in your project. Anyway, so now you can select them top down. Let me change that. All right, so let's say they're in the order you want. Then just go ahead and click the top one and go ahead and hit Shift, grab them all, and just drop them in. Yeah, I guess that's everything. So I'm going to have to repeat a couple shots, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and copy paste that. So go ahead and stack these up. I'm going to add a couple more. I'll go back to kind of towards the beginning, and I'm copying and pasting here. Okay. If you have a little gap there, you can rep delete. And let's add one more. Right? Copy that and paste that. And I'm going to magnify that and butt that up. And then I'm just going to extend that. This last one, which is a little short, I still need a couple seconds. I'm just going to extend that right up to that point where that crashing sound comes in. Right? So I'm just going to be like an extra frame. Right? You can just extend that, you grab it, you can trim it. Okay, so now, right, I'm going to do a save. I just did that backspace. I'm going to magnify again so I can see those images. So now here's what I want to do. So right now this looks kind of boring. Okay, nice shots. I have this music, but I would like to see these images move, right? Give me some movement, right? Because storytelling is always going forward, right? So let's do like a little push on this one, right? We don't have to get too crazy. This is kind of like the quick way to do something. Let's do a head basic scale adjustment, all right? Let's go from it's about 5 seconds. Let's go to like I don't know, 130. What's that look like? Does it sort of feel like the right pace for the music? That feels pretty good to me, right? That seems like it's right. Okay, so we've got a basic motion effect. So now I want to do this again against all of these. So you could go into each one and set that scale, but we learned last week that we don't have to do that. If we want the exact same motion on all of those, we can right click on this first one, which has the motion. Okay. We can go copy. And then we click on the next one, right? We right click. We go paste attributes. And in this case, motion, we don't have the vector, right? Because these are still images, so they were external. We don't create them in Premiere, otherwise we would have that vector. Click OK, and now they both have the same pacing. So you can do that if you have to do 2 or 3, but we have a whole bunch more. So if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to try this. I think we could still, I'm going to select all of these. And I just copied the, I copied that and pasted there. So if I haven't done another copy, that copy stays in my memory. So I'm going to right click and paste attributes. And I think this should do it for all of them. Let me see. Hang on a second. Okay. Yep, there you go. So it applied it to all of them because it applied it to the selection. So let me undo that. Again, this is another workflow technique that can save you a lot of time. I guess I got rid of this one too. Yeah, because I probably did too many I did too many Control Z, right? So I've got my motion on this. That's fine, no big deal. I'm gonna copy it again. Click. I'm gonna select all the remaining clips. And somewhere in that selection, I'm gonna right click. And I'm just gonna go paste attributes. And I get that window and it says motion, it's gonna apply the motion. Boom. And now I've done those edits on like what, 12, 13 clips. Right? So I didn't have to recreate them. So that saves me time, right? So now they're cutting, right? Each shot cuts, but you know what? I think it would, I'd like to, let's do a dissolve. It's going to make it smoother. I want to communicate the idea of the music. So same kind of thing we just did. I'm going to click and select all of those still images, right? And we're going to go up to sequence and apply video transition, here we go, apply default transitions to selection. Same kind of thing we just did with the motion effects. It's going to put that default, I think it's going to make it, yeah, it's going to be 1 second, but it's okay. Let's see how it works. So click that and you can see the shortcut. Click, boom, it just put all transitions. You can't see them because we're demagnified. Let's magnify. You can see all those cross dissolves, right? And so now, let me deselect. You can see them a little better now, see? So it applied all those, and it even gave you like a basic fade up. So you can see now, in a matter of minutes, you've got about a minute of this thing done. And if you wanted to, tweak each layer, you could, if you wanted to put like, other effects, you don't have to use dissolve. I'm just showing you that quick workflow. Now there's a dissolve here, which what I don't want because we want to make it abrupt cut. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. I'm just going to cancel. Hang on. I'm just going to click that and get rid of that. There you go. Now, there is something that I'm noticing here because when you do this default, okay, again, this is a very nuanced thing. I'm not going to push it on this project, but I want you to be aware of it. So you can see that as the dissolve comes in, the outgoing clip seems kind of like to stop moving, right? And then the next one seems to hesitate. That reason is because when you click on that first clip, you can see the keyframe, right? For the Earth, for that first green valley, it's ending right there. But the dissolve is still going, which means it's still extending that video from that first clip. So there's a little trick, and again, I'm not going to push you on this, but I will bring this up on Project 5. I get a little bit more critical with each project. So if you click here, not there, I'm sorry, right here in the effects control, there's this little trick. You right click and you have this little default setting. It's called pin to clip. Again, this is a subtle adjustment. If you deselect that, you click it, it goes away, right? Right? You can see it's deselected. And also, let me turn it back on. You notice the rings here. Right now it's showing you everything that's going to show you in this display, right? And then when I deselect that, this ring jumps because now you can actually magnify this section and you can have a better idea of where this clip ends. So let me do this, right? Deselect. You see that? Drag that out. Or you can go this way. And so you can see, so that clip, it's very hard to see, but you can see that right here, this is a lighter gray, and then it gets a darker gray, because that's when the next clip starts transitioning into that clip. So that overlaps. So the trick is, without too explaining, this keyframe actually belongs to this clip to the left. So you can extend that, even though it looks you're adjusting the keyframe in the next clip, but you're not, because that's not selected. You're still selecting the first clip. But what this does is it extends that push, that move through the dissolve, and it makes it a little smoother. You see? So it continues moving all the way through the dissolve until that image is gone. And then you can click on the next clip, right? So now we're on Greenscape, right? And this is actually the keyframe, the first keyframe for this, even though it looks like the previous one. Okay, so I'm going to magnify this a little bit, and then I'm going to move that to the left, because then that makes that clip already, as soon as I start revealing it, it's already moving, see? Because this is, the minute this dissolve begins, it reveals this next clip, but now I've already got it moving. And you can even move it earlier, even though it's not visual, it's still connecting to the media, right? Okay, so anyway, I'm just giving you that tip because that really makes that a smoother transition. Let's watch the first one and compare it to the second one, right? You kind of see that hesitation? Do you see that little hesitation? It kind of like seems like it kind of freezes for a second. See? Whereas this, it's consistently moving through. So anyway, that's a little nuance, and that affects your flow, your pacing. I do a lot of keyframing, so I'm very picky about that. Okay, but again, that's a technical nuance with like dissolves. I'm not going to push it on this one, but if you do something like this, you know, in Project 5, which is 2 projects away, be aware. All right, I'm going to be looking at that. All right, so let's continue. All right, so we've got the that first part, right, which is a very different pace, and now we're going to go into a very different pace, because all of a sudden, right, so we've got nature, you know, beautiful, you know, the earth, and then, you know, people are going to come and just ruin it, right? All right, so let's go to the first clip, and now we're going to go into, I think we're going into civilization, right? Let's open up, there's crowd. Yeah, let's do crowd. Okay. Now, all of these, I've got these from different sites, so there's a different resolution. I'm going to go ahead and drop it in and butt it up, and you can see when I click on it, oh, it's actually pretty big. Let me see, how big is this? Properties. Okay, yeah, it's actually pretty big. That's good. So it's definitely bigger than our, I thought it was smaller. Some of them were smaller, okay? But now, before we do this, if you dropped it in the timeline, click on it and delete it, okay? Because we're going to now use a different technique now. And this is the part of what's called the automate the sequence, okay? And this is on Blackboard. Hang on a second. This is on Blackboard. I want to highlight it real quick. Exercise. There we go. Okay, here it is. It's on project 3. It's right here. Automate the sequence technique. Here's the technique for creating a quick rough cut, edit, and stringing together your images in the timeline. This is basically what we're doing, but now we're going to use that specific aspect of the automate. Okay, everybody still seeing my workspace?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now just watch me for a minute. This is whoever invented this was probably a linear editor from the old days, because this is kind of editing what we used to call it on the fly. Okay, so I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the music for a minute, right? Okay, so you can hear the beat. It's not exactly what we would call 4/4 time signature, which is like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. It's kind of an offbeat 4/4, maybe a 5/4. Any musicians would know what I'm talking about. So what we're going to do is we want now to cut on that like little snare drum, right? Dun da 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 da. Right? So, okay, you could physically drop each clip and, and extend it, and okay, that's how long it needs to be, right? And then you could pull it up and make it long and then drop it in, and it would cut on every of that drum beat. But there's another way to do this, and again, you don't have to do this like for 20 seconds, but there might be a few spots in your music where maybe you want to like punctuate something. And this is one way that you can sort of like shortcut and do this a little quicker, right? So let me show you. All right, let's go back. Okay, I haven't done this in a while, so hopefully I'll be on time. All right, so basically what we're going to do, we're going to use the M key, right? Your M as in, whatever, meet, right, on your key. And I'm going to back this up and I'm going to play this. And as I hear that beat, I'm going to hit my M key and it's going to put these little markers, right? So just watch me for a minute and then I'll give everybody a chance to do that. I'm going to sort of magnify this little section here. I'm only going to go to about like maybe 120. So we're not going to do like the rest 2 minutes of this piece because we never get out of here. I'm going to go back. I'm gonna listen to it for a minute and then I'm gonna play it back because I'm doing this in real time. Okay. Okay, so I created some of those markers. So the idea is right on that sort of like snare drum, right? And of course, I marked the first, punctuation there, right? And then I kind of punctuate this sort of like, scraggly guitar here. We're going to end with that. Okay, so I'm going to do it again, and I want everybody to try that. You don't have to get it perfect because this is only the first part of this technique, right? Okay, so put your headphones on or whatever one, just mute, yeah, and just go ahead and play it through and just try to hit that that beat, okay? And then we're going to drop images on those marks. So we don't have to like edit each one and drop them in. We're going to do similar to what we just did a minute ago. We're going to select a bunch of clips and they're just going to drop in there and they're going to fall. Those cut points will fall right on those markers. Okay, so it's a technique, it's a workflow, it's a time-saving workflow. All right, so I'm going to do it again. So go ahead and do it on your own, right? You might want to go back and play that music a little bit so you can kind of hear up for it. And after you do that, save it. I'll give everybody a minute to do that. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, and then end, where that right around like 122, where you have that like guitar coming in. All right, so that should be more or less your last marker. Okay. How'd that work for everybody? No? Any musicians out here? Any drummers?
Worked pretty good.
Good. So this can be a nice way to save. Again, it's an option. Yeah. So yeah, maybe I'm cheating a little bit because I am an old drummer, so I listen to that. Anyway, okay. So now we're going to do the visual, the image part. All right. Let's go back in. And again, this is also on Blackboard, and that's why I want to make sure you had the material. All right. So now those markers, they're going to be identified. Make sure you save. And then we're going to come down here. Let's see, images, right? So we're going to go civilization. We'll just go with civilization. Okay, so I want to start with this shot crowd. Let me see. We can actually, it's up to you. You can do it however you want. Here's a simple way to do it. Let me check the markers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The 12th one is that guitar. And I know that the 12th one, I really want this image right here. This image like stressing out on the phone, right? So, so I want to end with that. I want that to be my 12th shot. Okay. So now that's not currently the 12th shot. Let me pull that back. I'm resizing. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I've got, yeah, so those are my first 12 shots. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select this first one, and I'm going to select these out of order, but I'm going to make sure that's going to be my 12th shot. Lady B, black and white distress. All right. So, and then go ahead and click these however you want, but count it out that your last shot that you select is this one, because we're going to do a specific effect on that. Okay. All right. So let's go up. I'm going to start with crowd because we're going to do the same effect on crowd. Right. And then now select it however you want. So that's 1. Right? So I'm going to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to drag 8, 9, 10, 11, and then there's my 12th shot, right? So I've got 12, right? So I'm going to count them again. Make sure I got 12. 1, 2. Don't deselect because you'll deselect. Don't click, you'll deselect those clips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. So I think I've got 12. Okay. So once you have those selected, don't do anything because I'm going to tell you what to do. Okay. Go ahead and just bring your playhead back to that first marker approximately. Okay. So you've got these selected. Then you're going to come here to this this command, automate the sequence. Okay, I'll give you a second to select them. If you want to order, if you want to grab them in order, and then you can always reposition the black and white lady who's stressing out at that 12 shot. You can always move it down here. That there's, this doesn't overwrite that, right? But this just gives you a quick boom. So you're basically doing 12 edits in one click. All right. All right. So when you go here, this gives you a dialog box. Okay. Ordering sort order, which is how they're stacked in the project panel, or you have an option selection order. So I'm going to go with selection order because I selected these specifically. I definitely wanted that one clip of the crowd, and I wanted this lady as my 12th clip. So I'm going to say selection order, and then placement at unnumbered markers. Okay. Sequentially, no, at unnumbered markers. We want it at unnumbered markers. That means it's going to it's going to respect those markers. And insert edit, hang on, you don't want an insert edit, you want an overwrite. Okay, meaning it's going to just sit on top of the music. If you insert, it's going to chop up the music. And then pretty much everything is transitions, apply default, no. This should be just cuts, use in and out range. Yeah, so now you hit OK, and those clips will drop, and each cut will occur on those markers. Okay, so let's hit OK. And there you go. See, you see how they fell into place? And when you magnify that little section, yeah, a little bit off here, but we can trim that. Okay. So there's the crowd, and each marker it cuts. And then at the very end, of course, there's the lady, and we didn't, put another marker, so it just gives us 5 seconds, right? So if you have a little black, little gap here, I'm just gonna trim that out because you don't want to have a little gap. So it's gonna cut right on that piece. Let's go ahead and play that through for a minute. And you can see those edits. Right, so this lady came in a little late, but that's fine. We can adjust that, right? But you can see those markers were basically like edit points. There's kind of like non-committal edit points, right? Right, so I actually want to bring this lady in right when I hear that guitar, which is it's right there. Right? So it's about like let's bring it in at 122. So it was a couple frames late. I'm just going to drag her over a little bit. So that last shot will be a little shorter. That's fine. So that one literally to cut to her. Right? So she won't be up that long. So let's trim her back by about 2 seconds. Let's leave her up for about 3 seconds. Wait, I just trimmed about 2 seconds, so that should be, yeah. Maybe, yeah, go to about there. Bring her in about 122 because I think we're going to cut there. So yeah, she'll be about 2 seconds long. And you can always right click on this and go to speed duration if you want to see. That's about 2 seconds. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so now don't worry if it doesn't work perfectly for you. Okay. Again, this is an optional technique, but this is also how, this is how I would interpret music. So I know I listen to this music 100 times and okay, if I was going to do like a video, this kind of makes me think of like nature, nature being beautiful, pristine, and then this music comes in and it's like tension, and I want to communicate tension, and then, traffic, people, whatever, right? So again, this is kind of like a mood piece. You can do something like this as long as it has some kind of story, right? Because this has this sense of beginning, middle, and then I've never like done the end of it, but it would somehow end with some sort of conclusion, right? All right. How did that technique work for everybody that automate the sequence?
Yeah, it
Yes?
saves a lot of time.
If you feel it takes a lot of time. So if it slows you down, again, you don't have to use it for like a huge section, but if there was like a specific section where you wanted to like punctuate something, again, if you're not using music that has that punctuation or that meter, then it won't really work for you. But you could also use it when we did that little slow part. You could have just marked it and you could use that. So anyway, let's finish. Now we're going to go into a little bit of technique here. So let's say we want to accentuate this, right? It's just a still, it's a crowd. So let's say when we cut to this, we want to create like some emphasis, right? Right? So now you can see, because I have that pin to clip deselected, now it's a little trickier because I don't have that border. So you might want to turn that back on. You can see right here that I'm actually looking at this previous clip here and crowd starts here. So you can go back in here and turn that on. And in this case, I'm doing like straight cuts. So I want to see the edge of my clip, right? So for example, you could do a scale, position, rotation. And let's say, I'm going to do a second scale and I'm going to make it like 200, right? Right? And then maybe you want to make it like 250. So, and maybe you want to start, I'm going to add a second keyframe and I'm going to go back to the first keyframe and maybe rotate this, right? Which now I'm going to see in the edges of the frame, but I'm going to have to scale that up a little bit, right? right? And so maybe I want to punctuate this moment. So when it cuts, right? So that's like a very fast move because I have my scale from from 100, from 124 to 300. If I want to slow that down, I could pull that out, right? And then maybe after a second or two, add another keyframe and make a very slight adjustment. And so it's gonna sort of bounce. See, it comes in, it does a quick rotation, super fast zoom, and then it kind of floats to this other value, right? 250 to 259. This is optional. And then, you can do whatever these cuts. And now, so here's an example of a smaller resolution, right? Right? If I click on this, I think I can still see information here. It doesn't give it to me there. Okay, this is what fuzzy neurosis, right? So this is a smaller resolution, right? Dimensions, right? It's 1,000 by 666. So if I want this to fill the frame, I would have to scale it up, right? And it still holds up okay, right? Okay. And I could do whatever I want, do a move or an effect, etc. I'm not going to do on every one of these, but when you see something like that, that means it's smaller than your dimensions, right? Those dimensions are smaller. Here, for example, this is probably really big. This is, what clip is this? Garden State, right? So this is probably pretty big because it's a little bigger, 1990, 13. It's very close. I could pull that out. Yeah, so it's just a tight shot. Anyway, so we talked about that the other day. Now, so let's say this. Let's say we want to emphasize this sound. Okay, we're articulating music, right? We're visually trying to articulate, communicate the mood of this music, right? All right, so she's kind of stressed out. So let's click on her. First, let's scale her up, turn on the position and rotation, and go fill her full screen. Let's go let's do like 150. I'm going to show you a little technique here that incorporates messing around with position and scale and even some rotation. I'm going to magnify this a little bit, this little section, and go forward literally 3 or 4 frames. Add a keyframe for scale and position. Don't worry about rotation yet. And make a very slight adjustment on the position on that second keyframe, right? So a little bit maybe to the right. Actually, I'm going to have to scale this up a little bit bigger. Let's make that 155. There you go. And let's make that 157. So we're making very small adjustments, right? On scale and position, right? 960, 540, very small. Go forward, 3 more frames, add more keyframes, and maybe, make a little bit bigger adjustment and adjust something on your position. Go forward a few frames again. Right, and make I'm gonna make this a little smaller again, 158. So she becomes a little smaller there, and maybe push her up here. All right, go forward 3 frames. You can make this even tighter if you want. Let's go 155. Maybe I'll go back to 160. Okay, and again, this is just I'm just kind of random, just sort of trying to make this feel random. Okay. Right? Let me make this like 165. And then maybe drop her down a little bit. Okay, so let's see. So it's gonna give her, okay. Actually, I'm gonna move these closer. I'm gonna select them all and slide them a little closer to that first keyframe. Okay. Okay. And if you want, go ahead and add a couple random rotations, right? Like not full rotations, just very small rotations, right? Right? Go back that way again. Maybe 5. Go to the next one and maybe bring it back the other way. Be careful with your black. And if you have to, if you want a rotation, I went 10 degrees, you can see the black, then go off your scale here and make it a little bigger so you don't see that, right? You can emphasize that a little bit more. Okay? So now she's like jumping around. And then to extend this to the rest of the clip, you go ahead and click and select, or you can also do a Control A or Command A. You've got them all selected. Put your playhead just like beyond that set. Do Control C, copy, Control V, and then you duplicate those keyframes and then see how it works. So the idea here is I'm trying to like make that picture look kind of, right? And you can extend it, right? Because it ends. And again, maybe you might have to go and tweak these a little bit, right? I'm going to like bring this group a little closer. Again, this might feel very tedious, but high level editing can be very tedious. You watch stuff on TV, it takes, 20 seconds. That may have taken, depending on what they did on that technique or that effect, that may have taken, minutes, maybe depending on an hour. Okay, so I'm going to keep pasting this. So until I fill the rest of the clip, I'm going to go ahead and it's going to be extra. So now when we hit that clip again, so she's sort of like flailing. And so if it feels repetitive, you can always go to a point where you don't want that to do that. You can change whatever keyframe you want, whatever value on whatever property to make it a little bit more random. Maybe not feel so repetitive, but it gives you a base. Anyway, all right, so there's some technique there, some ideas. We saw some of that on the one of the samples we watched Tuesday. I think it was a Pink Floyd song, and it was about war in the Middle East. And they had explosions, and they sort of shook the frame. That's kind of like what they were doing, that technique, that keyframing. Okay? All right? How's everybody doing? How's everybody's head? Does anybody think they might even try some of this stuff? Considering? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, well, maybe. All right. But the other objective of that second exercise was to kind of like try to visualize how your images are going to work with your music. Okay? All right. So you can see I've got, about a minute and a half, and this is 3:28. So let me just show you a very simple technique. If you wanted to like fade this out, let's say I want to fade this out at 2:30, right? You can see it's about 3.5 minutes. A simple idea here would be, I'm going to just play this through here for a second. So they're kind of just like jamming. It's, you know, they're improvising, right? So 230 is right about here, right? Okay. I'm going to leave the playhead there. And I'm going to de-magnify, and then I'm going to trim that back. So that will end at 230. I'm going to magnify again. And let's say I want to use, I want to fade this out. There's a couple ways you could do this. I haven't shown you how to do this. You can add keyframes here to the audio level, and that's holding Control or Command, and you bring your pointer right on that little line, and you get that little, you see that little like arrow underneath it. You hold Control or Command, and you get a plus. And when you click, you add a keyframe. And then you go over here at the end, do same thing, Control, click, add a keyframe, let go, and now you grab the keyframe and you can drop it down. So that's like a natural sort of fade out, right? But there I would probably slide it a little longer, make it a little longer. I just slide the keyframe over, right? So that's an example of fading out. And you could also do this. Let me undo that, right? So no keyframes. You can also go into effects. If you don't want to like mess with those keyframes, go into audio transitions, crossfade. I think we did this maybe on project 1. Grab that, slap it on the end, right? It's going to show you, it's going to give you 1 second, right? And you can actually click on it. No, I don't think it'll show you. Well, you can see it here. When you click on it, it comes up in the, click on the actual transition. It shows you the transition. It tells you it's 1 second. You could click it here and make it 2 seconds, right? And it extends it. You could also just grab it right here, right? You get that little icon, that little trim, and you can extend it. And now it gives you a fade out with the music. Okay, so that's a quick fade out on music where, you know, it just, you know, nobody has to know that that's not the end of the song, right? And if they do, that's fine. That's your decision to end it there. Okay, but we're also gonna do an edit on Tuesday. Okay.